It's my pleasure to welcome back to the show actor, writer, director, and musician Billy Bob Thornton. Billy Bob has a full slate of upcoming film roles, but it's the release of his newest album, Hobo, that we will focus on today. Billy Bob, thanks for coming by one more time.
Anytime.
So, you are our first return guest, which means we probably didn't fuck it up last time. So we did something right. So we appreciate that you came back down.
It's my pleasure.
Here's something that you've run into, no doubt. The actor has made an album. Automatically, you have just lost like 10% traction.
Absolutely.
Or more.
Yeah.
10%, that's
Probably
being
more.
nice. And
sure.
Everyone always rips him harder than the great rap guy who's now kicking ass in movies.
Right, exactly.
And everyone goes, wow, he's so good. But when the actor makes the record, everyone's like, oh, Christ, here we go with that bullshit.
Absolutely. And you know, what's funny about it is, first of all, you know, we all grew up as kids wanting to be in a band. So what's different from, you know, like whoever it is, you know, me or whatever actor it is, wanting to be in a band, and a guy who ended up in a band who was never an actor wishing the same thing. It's all the same thing.
But there's a perception of it.
But there is a perception of it. And the fact is, it's like anything in life, it's always kind of 50-50. I mean, there are plenty of actors who make records who are just doing it as a novelty thing or whatever because they want to do it. And there are plenty of musicians who want to be in a movie just because it's like, you know, they think maybe the quality of chicks is different or whatever they want to do it. But then there are also 50% of the actors who are musicians and always were, who can make a record as easy as anybody else can, and vice versa with musicians going in movies. I'll put it to you this way. There's plenty of shitty music out there made by people who were never actors. And there's plenty of good music out there by people who have never been actors, and vice versa. So it doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. I mean, if you write a song, you write a song. Yeah. I just, you know, I think, well, I'll put it this way. If you're a car salesman and then suddenly you decide to have a second job because you need more money or whatever it is, and on the weekends you work as a carpenter, nobody says, hey, did you see the shitty carpentry work this guy's doing? He's a car salesman. You know, it just doesn't happen. And I guess a painter, if he sculpts a bust or whatever, people don't mind that either. For some reason, it's very specific to the actor-musician thing.
I've seen it so many times. Well, okay, you recorded a song earlier today, and we're about to watch it. So let's talk about that. It's the title track. It's Hobo, yeah?
Title track of the record, Hobo. Just basically a story about a guy who's like a street person, say in Santa Monica or wherever, and he's there on the street, and he's looking around thinking, when I was a kid, my mother used to feed guys like me, because my grandmother and my mother, we would have these guys, these drifters come through our little town, and they would come to the back door, I mean, for a handout. And so I just remember them doing that, and sometimes if my grandmother trusted them, and she had a real good instinct, my grandmother, they would actually come in and sit at the table with us and eat with us. And so I thought, what an interesting story to have a guy whose life went in some bad direction, and he ends up as a street person, and he's thinking back, and it's like, wow, I'm one of those guys now. And, you know, grandma's gone, right. You know, and I you know, wishing that it was like it was back in those days when you could actually come knock on somebody's door and they give you something to eat, you know, but it's really not that way anymore. So that's what the song's about.
Well, let's take a listen. This is recorded earlier. This is Billy Bob Thornton performing the title track of his new album, Hobo.
Mama, you
used to feed the hobos. Now I'm a hobo. I'm a hobo. Mama used to feed the hobos. Now I'm a hobo. I'm a hobo. Mama used to feed them scraps and things. Now I eat scraps and things. I eat scraps and things. Mama used to feed them scraps and things. Now I eat scraps and things. I eat scraps and things. Said California is gonna fall in the ocean, gonna fall in the ocean. Mama said California is gonna fall in the ocean. Now I'm in the ocean. When I was a child, I loved the people. I'm afraid of the people. I'm afraid of the people. When I was a child, I loved the people. Now I'm afraid of the people. I'm afraid of the people. Mama used to feed the hobos. Now I'm a hobo. I'm a hobo. Mama used to feed the hobos. Now I'm a hobo. Used to feed the hobos. Now I'm a hobo. I'm a hobo. Mama used to feed the hobos. Now where is Mama? Where is Mama?
The songs, you know, the lyrics, they're stories. To me, it's like these kind of these California stories. Tell me about why you went for that, because it is a very each song is like a small movie. Mm-hmm. You know, there's these people passing through it, and some are kind of tragic.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, I didn't intend to. Well, you know, I mean, you know yourself as a writer that when people ask you, what made you do that? Why did you write it this way?
Yeah, were you inspired by a single, like you wanted to get a thing going, like I'm going to tell stories on this record, or?
Not really. That's just kind of the way I write. I was making a movie called The Ice Harvest with John Cusack, and I was in Chicago, and I wrote the title song, Hobo, there in the hotel room, and then I wrote this song called El Centro on $5 a day. And then I realized that I was writing a thing that could become a thematic record. I mean, so I didn't set out to do it, but it very quickly became that. And then I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to write a record about the pilgrimage to California, because we've all done that. So that's what it became. You know, stories of people coming to California. It could be a doctor or a bum or whoever, you know, coming out here. But everybody's got a story about coming here. And so it's a collection of stories about the California experience, and in particular, the pilgrimage to California, and how California, in a lot of ways, is the last resort for people sometimes, or the last frontier.
And people have been doing that for centuries.
Yes, exactly.
And it's the gold rush, but only the gold has changed.
Right. That's exactly true.
Yeah.
And it's very sort of, well, you know, it's Steinbeck, really. I mean, not my writing, but I mean, the idea behind it is what he wrote, you know.
And Fonte, you know, about these people trying to eke it out in California.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we had a chance to just not talk about film all the time and just get into the music thing.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in and being on the show again, and thanks for, you know, letting the band play. I really appreciate that, so
sure.
I hope you enjoyed that as well.
Oh, I certainly did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Coming up a bit later in the show.